So welcome to the Rise of the Super Being podcast. I'm Vanderson Pires, our producer is Callan Walker, and our guest today is Kath Cooper. So before we started, this episode is brought by you by Combat Room Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. If you want to learn Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in a safe environment, meet cool people, and learn a very powerful skill, come to see me and my team at www.combatroom.co.nz. So just a quick reminder about the rise of the Super Being purpose. So we've been doing those really cool interviews with awesome people to bring their expertise, to give us tools, to take us to the next level. Because I think it's a really good, I think we are living this moment now. I think lots of people are discussing more, talking more about love, compassion, being open, the importance of mental health, to look after ourselves, not only physically, mentally, spiritually. And I think we are living this momentum, this really good momentum when everyone it's trying to connect with each other for the intention of bring the best of us, because we are doing well, but I do believe we can do better, right? We can make something better. You know, we're still dealing with so much suffering in this world, and I think the more we combine our strengths, and this is the way we can make a change. And you are one of the people who has been doing lots for the community. I know you now for 10 years.
Yeah, exactly.
So you've been helping me with the kids classes since was the beginning. And Zeke, your son, and kind of my son in some ways, we're gonna talk about this story.
Yeah.
Was the first kid at the kids classes. So thank you so much for your time. So I'm gonna introduce a little bit of what you've been doing. Okay, and this is
Sure.
just a small introduction because you've been doing way more than that. But just a quick. So our audience can know a little bit about yourself. So Kath, it's a strength-based life coach based in Wellington. She uses a strength assessment to identify your unique talents, and her straight-to-the-point coaching helps you to learn to apply those strengths. Kath loves to see people unlock their awesome. She's worked with people at crossroads in life, team leaders with a desire to bring out the best in their teams, and also couples. You know what's really pertinent because today it's Valentine's
It
Day.
is.
And couples who want to better understand one another. Her coaching is delivered in a way that is personal and unique to each situation and individual. Right?
Hi.
Yeah, hi. So, Kev, can you please tell a little bit about your background? So, you've been a teacher for quite a while. You have a master's degree, and now you're doing your doctor's, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Busy life, eh?
Yeah, really busy life. So I'm studying at the moment at Victoria University, and I'm doing an educational doctorate, and that's awesome. It keeps my brain really busy. And sometimes I want to stop, but I keep going. And I've been working in early childhood since 1996, so that's
Wow.
a really long time.
Mm.
I currently work as a lecturer, so as a senior lecturer, I teach people to be early childhood teachers, and I love lots about my job. I love seeing the growth and the progress in students as you see them going through the years. That's really, really fun.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, you've referenced Zeke. He's my youngest son, and he started doing jiu-jitsu when you approached my brother-in-law, Wayne, to see if he wanted to do a kids class.
Yeah.
So yeah, Zeke was one of the inaugural team members.
Yes.
Yeah, a long time ago now. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel part of the family because I know you, I know Wayne, Leah, and I've been seeing the growth of um, all of us right together, and
Yeah.
has been amazing. So, Kevin, how did you how your journey as a coach, how everything started? How did you become a coach?
Yeah. Some things changed at work, and I still really loved my job, but we had less contact with students, and so I was thinking that's one of the things that really lifts me up. And I hadn't really done my strengths coaching, haven't done my strength assessment before, but I just knew I loved being with people, and I loved talking and learning new things as well as sharing ideas. So I did my strengths assessment, my own self, and the ones that I've got that are really strong really lead me to be in a classroom in front of people or helping people develop. And so when I was coached through what my strengths looked like and what they meant and helped me understand them, I just felt like this was an amazing, true representation of me. I felt like it was like literally someone had been watching me since I was a baby. And I really wanted to share that knowledge with other people. I saw a lot of people trying to be better at something that they probably were not going to be super awesome at. They were saying things like, oh, I need to be quieter in a meeting, or I need to speak out in a meeting, or, you know, I'm just not really good at this. And I feel like we've got a society that wants to grow and learn and challenge, but I think sometimes they find the wrong things to try and grow on. So strengths means that you work out what you're good at, and then being coached in your strengths mean that you can sharpen those and make them better and better. And I think it's easy for me to be better at something I'm already good at. Be easy for you to be better at something you're already good at. You're just building on it. You've got a foundation there. Whereas if I asked you to be good at something that you weren't confident in, that would be a real struggle, and you'd often put up barriers to make that not happen.
Yeah. The power of coaching, it's incredible. I think people underestimate the power of having someone to... it's not a family member or a friend to be able to tell you the truth and to push you. So how are your thoughts about that? So what's the biggest differentiation about from a coach, from advice when you get advice from a friend or a family member?
Well, first, I think they go hand in hand. So I don't think people should stop talking to family members just because they got a coach. I think you should still ask Emily's advice, and I think you should still find your friends and ask them. I feel a little bit like coaching is a step backwards. Not backwards, but to a little bit removed from you. So if I was coaching you, I could offer you a challenge or a whittle that someone else closer to you might be nervous about asking you, or you might share something with me that you feel vulnerable about because you know that when our session's finished, I'm going to walk away, and I've created a safe space for you to share, but I'm also not going to bring that up unless you want to bring that up later on. So if you said, I'm feeling very scared about doing podcasts, we might look at your strengths and put them on the table and say, okay, so which ones will you use? If this is your dream and you really want to do this, let's have a look. What have you got? How can we make this work for you? Yeah. But sharing with someone that you want to do something but you're not sure about it can be quite a vulnerable place. Yeah.
That's interesting. And Kath, did you have any coaches as you grow up?
No, I don't think I had a lot of coaches as I grew up. I do know that I've nearly always been learning something. So with the Gallup Strengths model, one of the strengths is called learner, so a really, really strong desire to learn. So I finished my diploma and I taught for a couple of years, and then I did a degree in early childhood, and I taught for a little bit longer, and then I did a postgraduate, and I did the masters. Then I did a couple of multi-language courses, and then I started my doctorate. So I think what I did is I got those education mentors. So I got people talking to me, like early childhood gurus like Jenny Ritchie and Carmen Daly are people that Sue Jerrington, they talk to me like, and yeah, I get loads of amazing advice from them as well. I have had some coaches on and off during the years, but I haven't had one consistent coach all the time.
And do you have a coach right now? Do you have...
Kind of and not really. I've got a friend who's trained in a different coaching style, and so we swap sessions with each other. So Tanya uses her coaching knowledge and helps me, and then I use my strengths knowledge with her, and so we coach each other on a regular basis.
I think time to time, kind of, the people we met, influences her
Yeah.
a lot. And so at the moment, I have a coach. So her name is Maxine Walker, and we talk, about lots of different things. But one of the things was really interesting about coaching, and I had no awareness of that, is that idea of so she always say to me, coaching, it's future oriented, past oriented. It's more therapy and requires another type of expertise.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Kath?
I think that I don't disagree with her. And for strengths, what we would look at is what you're naturally good at, and we would encourage you to take some steps further forward. I do feel that there is some value in having a look at what you've done well beforehand. And it sounds like Maxine's kind of saying therapy is coming to peace with things that have happened in the past that might not be awesome. But I do think that when I think about the things that I'm good at, that they've been a thread through my whole life. I've been consistently good at learning. I've been consistently eager to learn. I've been consistently seeking out learning, and that helps me be my whole self right now. So there's a balance, I think. Yeah, but I do like to talk to people about what we can achieve, and I do like to think about how we can move forward. Yeah.
That's interesting. So, Kath, just for someone who, because he has lots of misinformation as well about coaching. So, for example, people think about if I see a coach, it's because I have a problem. Or what are your views on that? So, what type of people needs a coach?
For me, I think all people could benefit from a coach.
Yes,
and I think,
agree.
yeah. Okay, podcast finished. But I think one of the things, I think what happens is that when people get to a crossroads, and when they've finished kind of talking to the people in their immediate circle, they then want something else. So I think people start seeing a coach because they've got a challenge. And so that by default makes people think they have to have a challenge to see a coach. I've got to need a problem. But I think the people that I coach are people that say, I'm on maternity leave. I'm not really sure what I want to do next. I want to re-enter the workforce, and I want some feelings about what I'm good at, so I can put that in a CV. I've got a breakdown in communication with my significant other, like they're really exasperating me. I need to see them in a positive light. I need to see what their strengths are and what that looks like. And then I've just coached people because they're kind of curious about working together in a team. So I do a lot of teamwork. So if you were a team leader, I would coach you on your strengths, and then I would coach the individuals in your team on their strengths. And then I'd run some team building sessions. So I would talk to them. So when Kath's got learner, it means that she's going to be curious. She's going to ask questions. Vanderson's got command, and that's a great one. When you are struggling with something, Vanderson's going to come to the front and take the team, and we will all go off nicely. So those are most of the people that I've been working with, like making sure that teams know how to talk to each other. Yeah.
That's awesome. Did you notice what's the most common struggles you see people going through? What's the most common traits?
I think the challenge that most people come up with is the sense of self-worth, and I think that was a massive turning point for me. So when I took my assessment, I wasn't feeling super awesome. I was feeling okay, but there were some little doubts about what my abilities were kind of creeping in. And when I looked at my strengths, and when I was coached through the report and what it was saying and applied those ideas to my own life, I thought, oh no, I'm actually pretty cool. I'm a pretty awesome person. And
yes, you are.
I know that sounds a bit corny saying it yourself, but I think that's one of our challenges in society. We don't say, actually, I'm a cool person, or I'm really good at these things. And that's hard for me to still say, even though I know those things to be a truth. It feels funny to say it out loud. But I can see a massive change in people when I've coached them, that they start to feel really animated about themselves. They start to say, this is a cool thing about me. I'm a deep thinker. I love to think about problems. I love to go for a walk on the beach and just let my brain toss over ideas after ideas. And that's cool. So I feel like one of our main problems is that people don't realize how awesome they actually are. And, in a business, you spend a really long time working out what your tagline is.
Yes.
So mine's Unlock Your Awesome, because I really want people to unlock the awesome that they've got in them. It's my coaching's not about making you something different. It's making you the best you. And, that's another corny kind of line. But actually, everyone's awesome. We just need to unlock that so that people just say, yeah, I'm awesome. I'm good at what I do. This is fun being me.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think that's one of our challenges.
That's awesome. The other day was very interesting. So that famous UFC fighter, his name is Conor McGregor. No, I think he's been really notorious now all over the place, and now he's coming back. It was very interesting because I didn't even watch the fight, but I just saw the end, and I was paying attention on his corner. And after he won his fight, it was very interesting because who was on his corner and came to Octagon to celebrate with him was Tony Robbins. Yeah, so that was so interesting to me because he was a guy, he got his peak on his career, and after he was super lost, and he was lost in fights, and having someone like Tony Robbins, one of the most famous coach on the planet, right? No, he's super, and so this shows the importance of a coach and what a coach can help you to achieve. So that for me was super interesting to see that. I got really excited. Because for the fact of, this is just one demonstration of it. It's not even because of the presence of Tony Robbins itself, but it's for the mental coach, because especially those guys, so they have a coach for the wrestling, for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, for the striking, for nutritionists, all those things. But now they are seeing the necessity of the coach for the mind, for the emotions, and that was so interesting to see that, and I think that tells a really strong message about how powerful coaching is.
Yeah, it really
so Kath,
does.
what's so for someone who have no idea how the session works, so you're gonna how that works. The person gonna go there, lie on the sofa, and start to tell you about their life. So how that works?
Okay, I don't have a sofa.
No.
Lots of my sessions are done either I come to your house or I can meet you at a cafe or whatever kind of works. So
I love that.
Yeah, I love coffee still, so it's a thing. It's a good excuse. So my sessions work using the Gallup Strengths Assessment model, and so what that means is I send you a code and you fill in 177 questions, and the questions are unique because they're not binary questions. So that means it doesn't say, do you like being out and about with people, or do you like sitting at home reading a book? So the questions help sort out 34 strengths in a particular unique order. So having the same strengths in the top 5 order, there's 1 in 22 million chance that someone else on the planet right now will have the same. So they really are unique.
Wow, that's impressive. Yeah, because you sent me the quote and the code, and it was funny because you sent to me and my wife saw that, so she jumped. she did it first than me, and after I had to ask you, Kath, please can you send again? So I did, and can you please comment a little bit just so we can see? I'm gonna open up myself here, to tell about my results. Okay?
You want to know?
Yes, please. Because I think it was so interesting. I never done this before, and Emily, she did, and she was super excited about it to tell me and, to put on her CV as well. So she just, became a lawyer and,
cool.
So she was super excited about that. And I think that excited me as well to do it. So I did, and it was so interesting. I'd like to hear your comments now.
Sure.
Now I'm gonna have a private.
You're gonna be vulnerable now.
Yes, my private coach session here. So please.
So have you read it? Have you had a look?
Yes.
Yeah, cool.
Yes.
Okay. So was there anything that really stood out for you that made you think, oh, that's definitely me?
I think the first one. was about connection.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, that's my
That's you. Yeah.
that's so important to me, and I think it was so interesting because that I wasn't expected that one come first at all. And I don't. I wasn't expecting anything, but it was so interesting to see that because that's one of the things I I constantly trying to work more on. It's about connection with the people.
So when I saw that you had connectedness in your top 5, which in the short form it says, people who are especially talented in connectedness have faith in the links between all things. They believe there's few coincidences and that almost every event has a reason. And I was thinking about how long we'd known each other and thought there's so many times you've said to me, I don't know why we're doing this, but we're just doing this. Or when I said to you, the kids' class is getting too big, you need a manager, and you said, thank you, Kath, I accept your offer. I'm like, okay, I'm not quite sure I offered. But you also you've talked other times about coming to New Zealand and why you decided to come to New Zealand, and we worked together with that jiu-jitsu role outside the DSB arena to raise some money for Christchurch earthquake. So all those things for me, when I know those things about you, I thought, oh yeah, of course you've got connectedness. So your next one's achiever.
Achiever?
Yeah, so that's an insatiable desire to keep doing something. So I have achiever really high too. So we have a running list.
Yes.
Yeah, we very rarely celebrate something because we know there's always something else to do.
Yeah.
So our challenge as achievers is that we do actually need to stop and we need to say, whoa, this is awesome. I've done my first podcast. I need to do something celebratory. And even if that's a book in the sun or a little coffee out and then when you get to 10 podcasts, you need to celebrate.
Yes.
Because what achievers do is they set really high goals. And so you'll go to bed at night and you'll think, okay, I got these things to do tomorrow. And we don't often go to bed tonight and say, oh, it was a great day. I got lots done. Yeah, because there's always something else. Yeah.
So true.
So, yeah. So people will often say to me, I do a lot of different things. And they say, how do you, my sister Leah says, how do you do all of these things? But achiever's the thing that gives us a great deal of pleasure as well. So for someone else, that would be exhausting. Yeah. For people with achiever, we really like that feeling of doing. We really like having something to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then paired up with you, it's pretty awesome. You've got activator. So activator just wants to get on with it. So not only do you know what you're doing, but you want to get started. Yeah. So you're the person in the staff meeting that says, okay, we need to stop talking. We just need to get on with it. Yeah. And if someone brings you a challenge, so in the jiu-jitsu room, if someone says, oh, the couch is in the wrong way, you'll say, so move it. Yeah. So you're not a person that slows down and it just feels logical to you to fix the problem. Like you're not going to stand around and say, oh, let's try it 5 different ways. That's strategic. That's me. That's what I've got high. You've got learner as well. So an insatiable desire to know more and learning's really fun. Learning this way, when you've got a high learner, means that you don't have to do academic learning. You want to learn about how the podcast works. You want to learn about how to make that cup of coffee, how to do that little artwork on the coffee when you get it. How does this get made? What does this do? So you might be a curious person. Well, I know you're a curious person. Yes. You ask questions about people. And even the act of doing a podcast and interviewing people will really satisfy your achiever and your learner as well.
Yes, so true.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you feel really happy when you've learned something new.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And command is an awesome one, especially for a team leader. It puts people at ease. So command says, especially talented in the command theme have presence. They can take control of a situation and make decisions. So that would be about all the places that you've tried to run a jiu-jitsu and now you've settled on a really awesome place. Command means you say, this isn't working, people, we need to do something different. Or if you're trying to run a session and people are kind of milling around, you coming into that space and saying something means that people will naturally look at you. So someone with low command can sometimes get lost in a crowd because they don't have that aura or that presence, or you've just got this quiet expectation people are going to pay attention to you. And by default, people pay attention to you. So, yeah, I thought yours was an awesome set of skills.
Thank you so much. I was super happy. Yeah, and just to see the questions. It's so interesting to know things I never thought about it.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. And Kath, what's the science behind of this test?
Well, it's pretty extensive, and I don't want to get too many numbers wrong. So if you're really interested, Google Gallup strengths, and they've got lots and lots of research behind them. But they do a lot of tests. They do workplace assessment, and you can any company can do that, and it's about kind of the mental health of the people in your workplace. So at the moment, they say 22% of people don't like their job. So that's quite a big amount. That's almost like 1 in 4 people don't feel like they're using their strengths at work.
Wow.
Yeah, so it is massive. If you kind of look around a general office area, you think 3 of these people don't feel like they're having a good day because their strengths aren't being used, then that makes it really tricky. So with Learner and Command and Activator, if you were asked to sit at a desk all day and repeat a job one after the other and not talk to anybody and don't do anything different, you'd probably move jobs. Yeah. You're nodding. You're like, oh, it's not for me. Yeah.
Yes.
So people need managers and team leaders, and that's why I like working with teams a lot, is they need to kind of tap into what people's strengths are. When people like and use their strengths, they have a greater satisfaction at work. There's less likely opportunity for them to move. So if you were my manager and you knew that I liked learning, you might come to me and say, I'm interested in doing a podcast. I'd really like to know what kind of equipment I need. I need to know where's a good place for it. Can I give you this task to bring me back that information in a week's time? So then that really fuels my learner. I say, yeah, let me go find all those things out for you. And so when you tap into the people that you work with strengths and ignore their weaknesses. So I'm a really chatty, outgoing person. I like knowing things about people. I like meeting new people. So if we were doing an event, don't put me in the kitchen. Yeah. Nothing's going to get cooked because I'm just going to keep popping out to say hello to somebody. Yeah. But you can put a quieter person in the kitchen, someone that doesn't want to talk or interact with people. Give them that job. They will love it. Yeah. Don't put them on the door.
Yes.
They won't love it. Yeah. So you talk to team leaders about what their strengths are, and you talk to the team leaders about what their team's strengths are. And then you talk to everybody collectively about how to allocate those strengths to tasks that need to get done. Yeah.
That's so interesting. I love it. And Kath, what's make a good coach?
Well, I think a really good coach has to work out quite quickly a nice rapport with the person. And then they also need to test and understand when to push and when to pull back. So if I was coaching you, I might start the first couple of sessions, and I didn't know you, I might use words like, what do you think if, or how does it feel when I say this to you? But once we've got our relationship sorted, then I might say, Vanderson, I want to challenge you on what you've just said. So you're not going to necessarily say that in the first coaching session, because you need to work out what people want and where they want to be and how they want you to respond to them. So I think a good coach gets to know the people that they're coaching, and I think a good coach is constantly able to modify their techniques based on who's in front of them. So I would coach you differently because of the things I know about you and also what I know about your assessment. Whereas if I was coaching somebody else and they had a different assessment, I would tailor that to them. So one of my ones is communication. So I like to talk a lot, yeah? So when I coach someone with communication high, I have to be really careful to make sure they have a lot of space to talk. Yeah. And then I coached somebody and I was thinking, this is really hard. They're not giving me a lot of banter. They're not I feel like I'm really working hard to build a rapport. And they had unlocked all 34. So all their communication ones and their relationship ones were at the bottom. And I was like, so they don't have woo, which means they don't really love meeting new people, so they're nervous about me. The communication really low, so they can't articulate their thoughts and feelings well. They've got relator low, which means that they don't have a lot of deep, meaningful relationships. And they had something else low as well. And I was just like, okay. So I had to stop talking so much, and I had to be really comfortable with long periods of silence while they thought. And what I realised at the beginning of that coaching session is that I'd filled the nervous gap.
Mm-hmm.
But that wasn't a nervous gap for them. They were just trying to think. And I just kept talking on top of them. So I've modified my practice a lot since that person. It's a little bit easier now. Yeah.
It's okay. On your test, what was the first one?
Learner.
Learner. Okay.
Yeah, learners.
So can you tell about your 5?
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So I have learner.
Uh-huh.
So I have an insatiable desire to learn. I
Right.
love learning.
Uh-huh.
I have
This is so clear about you.
Yeah. and if I was a person that wanted to be somebody different, and learner is so high in me, then I would start to feel bad about myself. But I think I would start to get depressed if I wasn't able to think about learning. Like, learning's so embedded in me. I'm curious. I want to know things. I look things up. I read books. I like non-fiction books. I like knowing things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if I decided I had to change that would be the same as me trying to write with my left hand and get really good at it.
Mm-hmm.
I just need to write with my right hand and be excellent at that instead of trying to do this impossible task.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So positivity's number 2.
Wow.
Yeah. So this one's great because I can always see a silver lining. This one can get me in trouble sometimes because you might say to me, I was really late the other day and I was feeling really worried. And I'll say, don't worry, you're not normally late. But what I should be doing is saying to you, that would have been tricky for you because you like to be on time. So sometimes I will minimize, yeah, because I think, overall you're a good guy. You'll never be late for everything. So, yeah. But positivity means that I normally wake up with a good attitude. I normally can see the bright side of something. Mm-hmm. I've got a bit of a Pollyanna attitude. It means that I kind of just see good. Yeah, mm-hmm. I always see the good in people. Yeah. Then I have strategic, which means I've got a really cool skill, which means if there's lots and lots of ideas, I could often cut through all the silly ideas and find 1 or 2 really good ideas and go with that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The tricky thing with strategic is we make really great plans and then we do them for about half an hour and then we make another really great plan and we do that instead. Yeah. So we don't normally go like this in a plan. We go chunk, 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 chunk off like this. Yeah. I have WOO, which is an acronym. I don't love the acronym, but it says winning over others. So I really like meeting new people. I like and then I tie back into my learner, so I ask them questions about who they are and like, what do you do? And how did you choose that jiu-jitsu place? And so I just kind of do those things. And then communication's number 5. So I love talking, but I love writing a little blog post. I like getting my ideas across. I like doing PowerPoints. And so in a couple of weeks' time, I'm going to Auckland for a Her Story conference, and I'm talking about my year of no spending. So I just like talking about things. When someone asked me to do that, I said yes. Whereas if you have low communication, you might say, no, I don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's so interesting. Yeah, it's so you.
It is, eh? And then my next ones. So what they say with Gallup is that your top 5 are your kind of like your very, very key ones. And they're starting to talk a little bit more about top 10. So your top 10. So for me, I feel like the top 5 are a really true representation of me. And then my top 10, I say, is a full, beautiful colour photograph of me that kind of just does everything. So super quickly, my next one is futuristic. I see the future and I can think about it really clearly and I can see a vision for that. Developer, I love bringing out the best in other people. Like I do a lot of encouragement. Input, heaps of data gathering, gather up lots of little ideas and stories and share them. Achiever, never-ending desire to do something. And intellection's my last one, and that means that I love lots of time to have deep thinking. So I like kind of thinking about all sorts of different little things. So if you said to me, what are you thinking about, Kath? I've always got something to think about. I'm always thinking about something. Yeah.
That's so interesting, super interesting. I love it. And Kath, it's of course this is a rhetorical question, but it's is coaching an important skill for leaders?
No, I think no leaders need coaching. Now, this is a rhetorical question. Yeah, I think the tricky thing with leaders is I think there needs to be a definition between a leader and a manager. So for me, I say leaders lead people, managers manage paper. So if you're a manager and you're just doing paper stuff, then that that's fine. I think for leaders, they need to know some coaching skills. I think that brings out the best in their team. And I think when you're a leader and you have a strong desire to lift your team up, that also must by default mean you have to get to know them. Yeah, so if I was your team leader, I couldn't set you team leader goals. That's not my job. It's my job to help you create space to set your own goals and then to say to you, these are your goals, Vanderson. How can I help you get to where you want to go? What can I do as your team leader to keep you on your awesome track? And that's what I think a good leader does. I think that's some of the challenges around things like appraisals, where if I was your manager, I have a set of criteria that I judge you against. Whereas I see a slow turn in appraisals where people are said, what do you want to do? What do you think makes you awesome? How can we do more with that? Yeah.
That's interesting. And Kath, if you could go back on time and give advice to yourself, what advice would be?
Well, you sent me this question and I've been thinking about it today. And I think just a little bit more about believe in yourself and a little bit more about, there's a funny little saying that says stay in your own track. And what it's meant to mean is like, don't look over here and try and be this person, and don't look over here and try and be this person. Just stay where you are and grow in that space. And I think when I was younger and a bit more insecure, I would have looked at somebody and tried to replicate them. I might have looked at, if I use the lecturing job as an example, I've looked around and thought, oh, that person wears like a suit when they're lecturing. Maybe I should wear a suit when I'm lecturing. I'm not comfortable in a suit, You'll never see me really in a suit. And I think I used a couple of years ago, I was like, I tell lots of stories in my lectures, and maybe people don't want to know about my stories or my examples. And so one time I asked students for some feedback. So I said, what's something that you've loved about my teaching, and what's something you'd like to give me some professional advice on? And in that classroom, almost half the students said, I love your stories. They make the ideas that you're talking about, the theory that you're talking about come alive. And so I thought, okay, I am on the right track. Yeah. Whereas if I'd started to try and think about not doing the things that come easy to me, like telling stories, then I wouldn't have been my authentic self. I would have moved off my track, and it would be uncomfortable because it's not my track. So, yep, if I had to go back in time, I'd say, stay on your track. Just be awesome. You're just fine.
Yes.
Yeah. And don't get a perm. So don't get a perm.
Okay. Can you tell a little bit about the I don't know, maybe 3 most influential books for you
Yeah. Okay.
as a coach?
I'm going to start with the easy one. I love the Anne of Green Gables series, and I love the fact that Anne of Green Gables is just this lovely story about a child growing up and the struggles that she has. So are you familiar with the story?
No.
Okay.
I don't.
I'll make it real short, but this sister and brother live together on a farm. They're adults, and they send for an orphan boy to come and work on the farm, but there's been a mistake. So Anne turns up and she's a girl. So they let her stay one night with the idea that she's going to go back to the orphanage and they're going to get a boy, because it's way back in the day that girls aren't going to be useful. But Anne stays, and she has this real struggle because she's got really long red hair and she's got freckles, so she thinks she's not beautiful like one of her friends. So it's just her growing up story about accepting herself, and she's a writer and she loves drawing and she loves exploring and she talks too much, and I just think it's just a lovely story about somebody that comes to peace with who they are, but she also shares the struggles about who she is as well.
I love that. That's
yeah.
so that's a good tip for the people who are listening or watching us. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm even gonna find out more. I'm gonna put the link on the description so people can access.
And on Netflix at the moment, there's a series called Anne with an E. So it's based on the books. If someone doesn't want to read, they can do that.
That's good. Good to know.
Another book or series that I really love is written by Gretchen Rubin, and she's done a lot of research on happiness. So she wrote one called Happier at Home, and she did a year where each month she practiced doing something that was going to make her a little bit happier. So that's a really easy one to kind of look at. And then she wrote another one called Better Than Before, which is about habit forming. So, and that's a lot about accepting yourself too. So she says things like, rather than blanket statements like, if you want to get lots done, just get up an hour earlier. She said, for night owls, no one's going to get up earlier. They're going to hate that idea. Or this get up at 5 o'clock, someone that goes to bed late's not getting up at 5 o'clock, yeah? But they might stay up and do an hour at night, yeah? So she said, find out who you are and then use the strengths that you've got to get into the habits that you need. There's another one called The Power of Habit, which I read quite frequently, and I've lost the author, but if you put a link to it, that'd be great. The Power of Habit,
it's, I know this book is Charlie something. Charlie's. It's I love this book, yeah.
Me too. And I've realised what I love about it is that he uses so many little stories in it. So when you're reading it, he creates this conversation around a habit, and then he gives an example by using this story. And so that's one I frequently use.
Story about the toothpaste, why the foam was created just to create that sensation of I found that book so interesting.
And even the fact that toothpaste wasn't even popular for a really long time, I was like, oh.
Yes, so interesting. And I think what my lesson from that book as well was we can only create a habit if we reward ourselves. A good or a bad habit it's only created by the reward you give to yourself on the end of the process. And that really gave me a clear. And it was funny what we were saying before about we are constantly trying to achieve, and we forget about stop, reward yourself, enjoy that moment, right?
And I think that that reward thing was really interesting because Gretchen will talk about tailoring the reward as well, and that her rewards are not based on maybe traditional things. So actually going for a walk could be seen as a reward when you've finished a task. And she talks about pairing, which is something I've really taken on board. So I live high up on a hill, and so if I want to walk my dog, rather than going down the hill and making the walk difficult at the end by coming up, I go up the hill and have an easy walk down the hill. But for a while when I was reluctantly walking, I made a commitment that I was only allowed to listen to a podcast if I walked. So I couldn't listen to a podcast getting dressed or making dinner. I was only allowed to use the podcast app if I was walking. So when I wanted to finish the last part of your podcast, I'll be like, oh, okay, come on, Meg the dog, we got to go. So it created this habit of regular walking because I wanted to finish these podcasts. So you got to work out what your motivation is.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Kath, what's your definition of happiness? So because, the end of the day, part of your work is trying to help people to find their own definition. So what's your definition of happiness?
I think my definition of happiness is kind of contentment. And I think that...
I love that.
Well, I think the tricky thing with happiness is people think it's got to be like super awesome. And I think sometimes just being content. So sitting next to the loved one on the couch, having a nice dinner, feeling like you've had enough water for today. You know, those things can make you happy as well. But I feel nervous that we've got this new unattainable human goal to be happy. And I think that sometimes people get caught up in the idea we have to be happy all the time. And we don't. I think if we work on a percentage rule, and you can insert whatever percentage you like, if you want to say 70% happy or 75% happy. And that's where I think, for me, the contentedness comes in. Like, I have a happy marriage. I am happy in my marriage. I'm also really content. And I love being in my relationship, and I love being a parent to my children. But not all the time. Yeah. So if you had to measure that, you might be like, oh, Kath, you weren't happy last week. But actually, overall, I'm really happy. Yeah. And I think that's awesome. Yeah, I think that's important to realise that we don't put happiness so far up that we can't ever get there. We have to feel like happiness is something that we can get to.
That's awesome. So, Kath, now I'm going to make some statements I'd like you to comment about. Okay?
Sure.
So, about, having a coach. So,
yeah.
One of the benefits, so sees and believes on your potential.
Definitely. I think that a coach needs to see, like you talked about before, with the future going forward. So they've got to see a positive future for you. They've got to see that you've got potential. But I think also they could question. So if you said to me, okay, Coach Kath, I really want to, I need to get up Mount Everest next Thursday. Okay, Vanderson, I'm going to call you on this one. You've got some potential here, and I want to support this ambition, but we also need to make it manageable. So I feel like a coach has got to hold you to account, as well as kind of encourage you and lift you forward. Yeah. Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, so the next thing was exactly that, holds you accountable, right?
Yeah. And I think that's an interesting conversation. So at the end of my coaching sessions, I give out homework. I give them a piece of paper that I ask them to fill in and reflect upon, and that's just for them. So if they want to send it back to me, we can keep a dialogue going, but they don't have to. More about taking all the ideas in the session and trying to bring it down so it's something tangible they can look at. And so holding them accountable is really up to them. If they want an accountability coach, I'm definitely able to do that. But lots of time people want some space to kind of think things through. Other people say, yep, I want to be accountable for my goals and I want to check in with you each week. And that's an option as well. Yeah. Yeah.
So gets you out of your comfortable zone.
Well, I think...
How that sounds, huh?
Yeah. I think if you're coming to coaching, you probably want some kind of improvement. And so I think if you're coming to a coach, I would expect somebody to want to go a little bit further. And there's a known thing called a ZPD, a zone of proximal development. So there's a circle that looks like this, and that's all the stuff you're naturally good at. There's all the stuff you can do your own self and that you can learn to do. And then there's an oval going here, and this is the zone of proximal development. And what that means is you can't actually get into this spot without somebody helping you. So we talk about this in early childhood. So the child can climb up the ladder, but they can't negotiate their body over the top of the slide to slide down. So they need somebody to give them either some physical help or some verbal suggestions. So that's what a coach does. So you can live your whole life in your circle and you can be just fine because those are all the things you can do. But when you want to get into that proximal development zone, that's when you need somebody to push you out of your comfort zone. Say, right, Vanderson.
Yes, I love that. So true. Another thing, expands your thinking. How powerful is that, huh?
It's really powerful, isn't it? Because I think people can think. Well, let's hope people can think. People can think. People can think all the things that they want to think in their brain, right?
Yeah.
But we've got a limited set of knowledge, and that all sits inside our heads. You've got your limited set of knowledge that sits inside your head. So we either go somewhere and read a book, or we go to somebody and say, Vanderson, I've got this idea. What do you think? Yeah. So you will come at my idea that I'm offering you with your unique set of skills, your strengths, but also your world knowledge. So I say to you, I don't know, I want to go to Brazil next week. What do I need to know? you're a leading expert on what to do in Brazil, right? So this is going to be easy. So I have a limited set of knowledge around that, yeah? So coaches do that for you. So you say, I'm wondering about whether I do this or that, and then the coach says, okay, let's unpack that. Let's have a look at that based on your strengths. Let's have a look at that based on your interests, your ability, your desires to actually do that. Is this something you genuinely want to do? Yeah, but also I just think, like we said before, we can ask our family members and we can ask our loved ones, but you know, if you asked Emily about something, she's encased in the financials of your relationship, where you live, how you do, you know, what the ramifications of something are. But a coach could say, what would this be like for you without those limitations? And do you want that, or do you want to stay where you are with the limitations you've got?
I love that. What a great example. Yeah, that's so easy to understand. Yeah, another very, very powerful point is helps you to build personal awareness.
Yeah. And I think that's really personal to me as well. So my awareness of myself and what my strengths were was a little bit limiting. I didn't really know. So like I said, one of my personal traits is I talk a lot. But now I kind of embrace that a little bit. And when I know that I talk a lot, I'm okay with talking. But now I know that I talk a lot, I can also stop myself easier, because I think, oh, I've had a lot of talk time. I'll pull back a little bit now. Yeah. But when I was born in England. And then when we came back to New Zealand, my grandmother, my mum's mum, drove up from Hamilton to Auckland to collect us. And I was about 2.5. She hadn't met me before. So she put me and my mum and my dad in the car, and we were driving back to Hamilton. And I was talking, because I talk. And halfway down the island, she said to my mum, I just need to tell you, this is not normal for a 2.5-year-old to talk like Kathleen's talking. She has long sentences and amazing vocab. And my mum, I was the only child, and my mum was away from her parents. And so she just spent lots of time talking to me, and I just talked. So when you look at my strengths, you can see they've been there from the very beginning. So I just think, yeah, it's personal growth, and it's about feeling okay about yourself and saying, actually, I'm a cool person. I'm fine. Yeah.
That's awesome. Now I'd like to get just a little bit, that story. So so many stories about you. One I love the most, it's and I think for so many reasons, and the fact of, we were talking early before, and I even asked the permission, talk a little bit about adoption. So you adopt a child, and it's the most beautiful, pure act of love and kind, and someone can do for somebody else. And my grandmother, she did that for my uncle as well, and kind of for myself as well, because my mom was super young. She had me when she was 17, so she was just a baby and had another baby. So of course my grandmother, single mother, so she did that, and see this, this coming from you, it's it's not about talk, that's about doing something so beautiful, so powerful. So I love that about you.
Thank you.
Another thing as well, it's about this challenge that you had about being a whole year without spending any money. Just spend $40, right? A whole year. How's that possible? Can you tell a little bit about this story?
Sure.
Shows lots of willpower, lots of discipline, lots of self-control, being minimalist, of course, right? Amazing.
Being a bit grumpy because I couldn't spend any money.
And so first, why did you decide to do that?
I decided to do that in December 2017 because I thought so many people had said, what do you want for Christmas? And I didn't know. I thought, when I looked around, I thought, I've got everything I need. Like, my house is full, my family is delicious. I'm really struggling to think about something that I genuinely need, and almost anything I desired, really. And then we were kind of like putting out all those Christmas presents for the kids and making sure that like everybody had at least one. Because I'm really good at kind of like just buying for one person, then going, oh shit, I've got nothing for for kid number 2. And I just thought, gosh, there's so much consumption here. There's so many things. And so I thought, what would it be like if I did 1 year of not buying anything? And I was thinking at the time, one, it would be easy, and it wasn't. It was a real pain. But I also kind of thought, I've got so many things that I'm not honouring and respecting. So when you buy something, so like these chairs, you buy these chairs, you think they're a great idea. Right? So when you bought them, you thought, yeah, these are cool. I like these. Yeah. Then in 2 years' time, you think, oh, I feel like new chairs. But these chairs are nothing less valuable when you first bought them. And that rollover. So I thought, I felt like I didn't have loads of clothes, but when I put them in a little pile, even before KonMari, I was like, oh, actually, there's quite a lot of stuff here. So I thought I need to wear these. I need to use them up. And I had little bits of makeup and I had little bits of jewellery. And I was like, if I own this, I have to use it up. So I quickly decided I wanted a nail kit. So I ordered that on the 30th of December. So it was the year before. And then I wrote some rules. So one of my rules was I was studying. And so I had a regular meet up with my supervisors and my study friends. And so I was still going to buy 1 cup of coffee a week. So that was in place. I had purple hair at the time, and it came from a packet in the supermarket. And so I wanted to keep my hair purple. And both my very bald brother-in-laws had a go at the fact that I was allowed to buy hair dye. Both of them said that was a trick. And I was like, hang on, you're both bald. So I was allowed to buy hair dye, and I was allowed to buy it when it was on special, so I couldn't buy it. And I wasn't going to a hairdresser, so I didn't get my hair cut. And I had to use everything completely up before I could buy anything else. So if I was going to use hand moisturiser, I had to use all the hand moisturiser in the whole house. And if all of that was gone and there was no other thing I could use as a hand moisturiser, then and only then would be allowed to buy something else. Yeah. So if there was a body moisturiser, that can go on your hands, so you have to use that. Right. Yeah. So my $40 was a pen, because what had happened is I'd ordered a pen online and it got sent to my sister Leah's house, and she thought I'd gifted it to her, so she used it. And when I realised where it was and I still wanted it, I brought another one. And I had a little pair of socks, little set of socks that come in a set of 3, and they, all of them, I hadn't anticipated this part, so all of them had got a hole in them, so I bought another set of 3 socks. And then I made an accident purchase. So I went and got my eyebrows tidied up. And at the end, she said, oh, this is a good product. You should use this. And I said, okay. And I brought it. And then when I got home, I realised that I'd purchased something.
Wow, by habit.
Yeah, just by habit. And I think, when you know my strengths, I've got that woo where I like meeting new people and talking. And she said, do this, and I said, okay. Next minute I've brought something.
She's the specialist.
Yeah. And so I thought, oh, this is really interesting. I'm really fascinated with my own almost thoughtlessness about purchasing that. It just did not occur to me to say no. And so I had to come up with a line so that if that happened again, I could say, I love that idea, but I'll get that next time. Or not for me today. I don't need to explain anything, but for me, I needed a line to say, oh, thanks, but no thanks, or next time.
That's such a good technique, just to think before, to prepare yourself for the situation. That's awesome.
And the situation was so unexpected, I think I just kind of fell into it, and I was like, So lucky that was just before my birthday. So I gave it to my wife and said, can you give me this on my birthday? So that was my birthday present. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's the entire year. That's amazing. Now you're going to have the opportunity to talk that. So please tell a little bit about this conference you're going to go to Auckland so people can know more about it, and maybe someone that's watching from Auckland could go and have the opportunity to meet you in person.
That would be very cool. I'll send you a link so you can put it in.
Okay.
But it's called Her Story, and it's organised by a woman called Gertrude, who had a vision to have 100 conferences with 100 women at every conference and in 100 places around the world. So I spoke last year in November at the Her Story Wellington conference, and the people organising the Auckland conference approached me and asked if I would go to Auckland and tell my story there. So it's a day-long conference where people talk about a whole big range of different stories. People talk about overcoming addiction, they talk about tricky childhoods, they talk about setting up schools in places that need schools. So heaps and heaps of different topics. Yeah, mine's just a little topic.
That's amazing. That's super cool.
Yeah, it's real cool.
So, Kath, thank you so much. So, if someone, even I'd like to talk to you, if someone, managed to come this far on the podcast, maybe getting, we talk about some discount for the combat room members, I'd love to, I know so many people, already have some people from the club who's seen you and have the sessions, the coaching sessions with you, and I'm pretty sure after this more people are gonna be interested. So if someone is listening or watching this podcast and would like to get in touch with you, so please give yourself a plug so people can know more about it. Yeah,
thanks.
And of course we're gonna put all the information for the ones that are watching on the description of the video.
Cool.
We're gonna put all the information, but for the ones that are listening, they're not gonna have the same opportunity. So please.
Sure. So my name's Kath Cooper, and I do Kath Cooper coaching, and you can find me at kathcooper.co.nz. Sorry, coopercoaching.co.nz, or Kath at coopercoaching.co.nz. I'm also on Facebook, and if you want to message me on Facebook and say that you've heard this podcast and book a 90-minute top 5 session, I'll give you a free code. So
wow, that's such a good deal, eh? Amazing. That's super cool. So, Kath, again, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure. It was a great conversation here.
Thank you.
So many cool stories, and please keep doing what you're doing. You're amazing, and we're gonna talk more in the future for sure, as we have lots of things to talk about it.
Yeah, definitely.
So thank you so much for your time, and
my pleasure.
All the very best.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Vanderson, for having me.